Scotty asked me tonight to talk a little bit about my story and Success Club. So I'm going to tell you about a little bit how I went from going from kind of sort of doing okay in this business to hitting Success Club 10 every month. And one of the things that I think helped me, I'm sorry, Mike, did you, oh, I didn't realize you were getting it first. Thank you, Scotty. So one of the things that I think really helped me in this business was just being able to stay positive. So I'm going to kind of give you a rundown of my story first, of how I went, like I said, from not hitting Success Club at all to Success Club 10, and then I'm going to give you kind of a rundown of my philosophy of the business and what has really helped me stay positive, and give you guys some tips for strategies that you can employ to help you stay positive when we all know there are a lot of disappointments that come in this business, but obviously much more good stuff than bad stuff. So I started coaching last August, and my main reason for starting were for the workouts and the challenge groups. And so I was mainly promoting the workouts at first. I wasn't really promoting Shakeology much at all. I was a little skeptical of it myself at first. I didn't ever start drinking it until, I didn't really know anything about it until I started coaching, and that was when I first started drinking it. So I had a little trouble pushing anything that I didn't really know a whole lot about myself. So when I was getting ready to make a sale, sometimes I would, workout sale, sometimes I would mention it as an afterthought, but it would be more like, oh, hey, by the way, we also have this shake and it's really good for you. They had no idea what I was talking about. So, at the time, I didn't really like to push it. It also didn't really mesh with my philosophy of why I wanted to get in the business in the first place. I didn't want to require people to buy a challenge pack or be on Shakeology to be in a challenge group. And like I said, I was still kind of skeptical of it myself. I was still learning about it. So I guess the beginning of my turning point took place when I really started becoming a product of the product. And when I started to see my cravings reduced and that I wasn't catching cold even when my coworkers were all sick, that was when I really started to believe in the shake. I also spent some time learning more about it, not necessarily every specific ingredient, but, I listened to some of Shay Stanford's webinars. She has some great ones that taught me a lot about what was in it. And I was really starting to see that it wasn't just some cookie cutter shake from GNC full of chemicals, that, this was something legitimately good for you. So at that point, I did start to, post more about it on Facebook. And in the meantime, I was also enrolled in one of Scotty's Go groups, which is his version of a coaching camp. And it started in October and went partway through November. And during this time, for those of you who were coaches at the time, you'll remember they were doing the Ticket to Ride promotion, which was if you could earn Success Club in November, that you got a free ticket to Summit in June. And so he asked us to post a picture stating that we were going to earn our ticket to ride. And I did that. I posted my picture, but I didn't quite believe it yet. Up until this point in the business, I had maybe gotten 1 or 2 Success Club points total in my coaching career. So it seemed kind of far-fetched to me at the time to believe I could get 5 in 1 month. So as the month went on, by the end of the month, I had, I think, 2 Success Club points, and this was maybe around November 25th or so. And, like I said, at the time I was starting to post a little bit more about Shakeology at the time, so I had a few people that were kind of interested, a few people in my challenge group that were kind of on the fence about trying it. But I'm sure other coaches can relate. I was playing that mind game with myself where if I didn't think I could get them to commit, and if I didn't think I could get 5 Success Club points by the end of November, I didn't want to, quote unquote, waste these Success Club points. And so there was a part of me that was wondering, should I hold off and maybe I can get them to commit at the beginning of December and start the month off with a few points? And I guess I really decided, I have the whole month of December to get 5 points. I don't want to regret not trying. So even though there were only a couple days left in November, I really tried to give it one last push. And I was talking to a lot of people that were on the fence. I offered a free shaker cup to anyone that committed. And what ended up happening was that I missed Success Club by literally 1 hour. I think a Shakeology HD, I had 4 Success Club points, and a Shakeology HD order came through at 12:30 a.m. on December 1st, and I missed it by about half an hour. So obviously that was frustrating to know that I could have had it, and I just did too little too late. But it gave me the confidence to believe that I could. And I remembered Scotty saying that once you hit Success Club, it becomes a lot easier because you've already proven to yourself that it can be done. And this was so true. So even though I hadn't actually hit Success Club, I knew that if I had tried a little harder and really applied myself, that I could. So in my mind, it was locked in for December, that I was going to be able to hit it this month. And December was a really big turning point for me. Not only did I have this newfound belief in myself, but I also had kind of a lot of little things I was doing that was adding up. One of them, I started printing out some of the motivational quotes that you see floating around Facebook, and I made kind of a PowerPoint out of it, and I would print it out at work, and then I would look at it every single night or in the morning or anytime I needed kind of a pick-me-up. And that, I made sure they were quotes that really resonated with me and inspired with me, and I just looked at them over and over again. Also, at the same time, I got some cholesterol results back that my cholesterol had dropped an insane amount since I had started drinking Shakeology every day, which I know for a lot of people our age, that's not a big concern, but it runs high in my family. So this was a huge thing for me, that I was now really believing in the product. And I never would have known this if I hadn't been a product of the product. If I never would have tried it, if I never would have been using it the way I was supposed to, I would have never had these results to be able to tell people. So at this point, I know that the way I was presenting Shakeology was completely changing. And, that was all my new belief, and it was clearly showing through and translating into my message. And not just the message, but also the demeanor of how I was presenting it. I remember when I first started coaching and people would ask me about Shakeology, and then they would ask me about the price. I could literally hear the volume of my voice drop, and I would kind of mumble the price. And for me, I tend to talk pretty loud in general, so it was a noticeable difference. I could tell I was getting shy about saying the price. But at this point, after seeing these results, I was ready to shout it from the rooftops that everybody should be on this shake, and the price was nothing compared to the benefits that you get from this shake. So all that was kind of adding up, and it made it a lot easier for me to sell Shakeology just by how I was presenting it. Another thing I did during December was I talked to my uplines. So Nicole Murray is my upline, Jennifer Greenberg is her upline, and Scotty is her upline. So I messaged each of them and asked them to just give me some quick help, kind of setting some new goals for myself. And I think Scotty started me off with the goal of hitting Success Club once by the end of February. And Nicole totally upped the ante to every month starting in January with 1 month of Success Club 10 before June. And mind you, I thought she was totally nuts at the time. I had no idea how I was going to do this. But, it really did get me excited. And, just a side note, 6 months in this business can make a huge difference. I had to go back through my Facebook messages with my uplines to see exactly what they told me so I could relay that to you guys tonight. And it reminded me of when you go to a high school or college campus and you see the freshmen with their giant backpacks and their fresh little notebooks, and you think, oh, that's so cute. It was kind of the same thing. I was reading these messages I sent to them, and it was so kind of naive and new to the business, and I had no idea what was coming. And, so that was only 4 months ago. So my point is, don't be afraid to set lofty goals. It's insane how much can change in a matter of a few months in this business. So anyways, in December, that was not only my first month of hitting Success Club, but I went all the way to Success Club 10, and I was just totally lit on fire. And so that is a huge piece of advice to everyone. Tap into your fire. So like I said, what I did that month was reading the motivational quotes, being a product of the product, and getting, exciting experience to be able to talk about and exciting results to share with people, talking to my uplines, all that stuff contributed to really tapping into my fire. Because remember, I didn't start out that way. I started out just hoping to help a few people, maybe run a challenge group, maybe make a little money on the side, but nothing like this. I was seriously on fire. So in January, I made not just a vision board, I went ahead and made an entire vision book. It started out as a vision board that I made in PowerPoint, and then I found, I'd like a slide for Beachbody and then a separate slide for my fitness goals. And before I knew it, I had about a 30-page PowerPoint, and I decided to go to Kinko's, get it printed up in color, bind it into an actual book. I'm sure the people at Kinko's thought I was completely nuts, but I didn't care. So I actually have pictures of this that I'll show you later on. So hopefully you guys don't think I'm too nuts. But like I said, it just completely lit me on fire. I have it. I still look at it every day. I take it with me everywhere. And so it just completely fires me up every time I look at it. So it took me a few weeks to put it together, but totally worth the investment. So anyways, that's kind of my background story. And I'm sure from the story that I just told you, it seems like after I hit kind of some of the turning points I told you about, that everything was perfect. But it was not. It was so far from it. There were so many ups and downs along the way. And I think my biggest strength of what helped carry me through was be able to stay positive. So like I said, I'm going to give you a little rundown of my philosophy in the business. And then I'm going to give you some step-by-step instructions for kind of how to utilize this. So what I always tell pretty much any coach I talk to when they're disappointed, I completely believe this. When something bad happens, get excited because something good is about to happen. And as long as you stay consistent with your actions, those good things will come. The disappointments are not a sign that you're not cut out for this business. It's not a sign that your business is tapering off. It's literally part of the process. And I think I learned early on how cyclical this business is. Like I said, there's a lot of ups and downs. But, just like nature, no storm lasts forever. And, I have some examples I'm going to give you in a minute. And they're all kind of nature related because so many things in nature are cyclical. That's why it works. That's why it runs so smoothly. And your business runs the same way. And I think the sooner you can accept these ups and downs as fact and as part of the process and not a reflection on you, the better off you'll be. I think everything unfolds the way it should. And, try your best not to get frustrated because we can't control everything. So just try to relax and enjoy the process. But, I got to thinking, what actually, these disappointments and things, when somebody tells you, no, they're not interested, or, when you think you make a sale and they end up backing out, all these disappointments, these down points in the business, or when stuff is just slow in general, what really defines that as being bad? It's not inherently bad. If somebody tells you, no, I think I'm just going to stick with going to the gym, or they're not interested, there's nothing really bad about it. It just is what it is. What defines it as bad is our fears and our assumptions that we make about this. When we start implying that these disappointments are a reflection on us or our skills. So, it's kind of like high tide and low tide. And I think low tide would be bad if the ocean said, I'm never going to be at high tide again. I'm not cut out for this. I don't want to do this. It's too much work. But obviously that doesn't happen, and high tide and low tide continue to switch, and it's all cyclical. I think the same is true when you look at a mountain. What defines a mountain? There are peaks and there are valleys, but it's all one. And if the world was full of mountain peaks, it would just be one giant piece of raised land. But it's not. It's all one. There's peaks and valleys. I think the sun going up and down is the same thing. We don't freak out every time it gets dark at night. It's just all part of the process. We know the sun is going to come up again, and it's just part of the process of moving forward through the days. And, like I said, I think the business is the same way. So I try to think of it, as the way we learn things. Think about the way we learn things as a kid. trying because we had the belief that we would get there. We never questioned it. When somebody taught us how to tie our shoe, I'm sure it was a very frustrating process, but we knew we would eventually be able to tie our shoe, so we kept trying. And I think we need to do the same with this business. You know, there's always more stuff to learn. We're never perfect at anything, but you just keep going, and the good stuff will continue to come despite the disappointments along the way. So back to what I mentioned before, I think when we see these disappointments, there's a lot of different fears that creep in. And I think one of the most common ones is that I'm not cut out for this, or I'm not capable of this. You know, just because I'm not Scotty Hobbs, I'm not cut out for this. Scotty must word everything perfectly. He knows exactly what to tell people. He can sell a challenge pack to anyone. You know, and I think the problem is, with Facebook, we see the successful coaches at their best. We see them already succeeding, but we don't see the hours of, you know, all the hours and struggles and disappointments that go on behind the scenes. And, you know, even with the story I told you in my background, you know, like I said, I made December and January sound like smooth sailing, but, you know, I put a lot of hard work in at that time. You know, there was probably 2 months where I was sleeping maybe 4 or 5 hours a night. You know, I was working my butt off. It was definitely worth it, but it was hard too. So, you know, I think that's important to keep in mind, you know, as we go through this, that these ups and downs are all part of the process. It's not that we're not cut out for it. It's not that we're not capable. It is literally statistics. And I think that's why I've always kind of liked Brian Tracy's book, The Go for No concept. The whole point is about trying to get people to say no. And the more no's you get, the more likely you are to get a yes. Statistically, it has to happen at some point. And I think for me, it helps to kind of frame things in that go for no concept, because then I don't feel like a failure. It reminds me that getting a bunch of no's are all part of the process of success. You know, even the best car salesman in the world knows he's not going to sell a car to each person he talked to. Of course not. You know, but even though that person knows a ton of people are going to say no, that there's going to be a yes. And so I think the most successful people are just the ones that know the yes is coming despite a bunch of no's first. And, you know, when I say it's all part of the process, that these disappointments are part of the process, I'm not just talking about learning from it and turning it into something good and looking on the bright side. I'm literally saying it wasn't a failure in the first place, that it is part of the process of moving forward. And so one of the things that I remember Scotty saying a long time ago, and I think he says this pretty often, if you want to double your Success Club points, double the number of people you talk to. And it literally is statistics. And if you want to increase your statistical chance of getting a yes, you know, work on things that will increase your skill. You know, all of you people on the webinar tonight, you know, all the coaching camps, the file section of our team page are full of incredible information. You guys all know this. So, you know, literally do those things to help you know in your mind that it's not, you know, when you get a no, that it's not just you. It's not any setback of yours or any reflection on your skill. I think another fear, and this is one that I get a lot, is kind of the fear of burning out, or the fear of it being too hard, or that you just don't want to do it. The first time when I signed up to run my first marathon, you know, it seems like a great idea. And, you know, it seems like this grandiose, giant, awesome accomplishment. And then you have to start training for it. And you're like, oh, wait, I have to run now? This is hard. And so I think it's important then to kind of go back to your why and enjoy the process. But remember that the difficulty is also cyclical. I think you hit harder points every time you take it up a level, but then you reap the rewards from that, and it's reassurance of how worth it is. So, you know, like I said before, I did a lot of work to hit Success Club 10, and especially, like I said, December and January, I was just working constantly. I was essentially working 2 full-time jobs and, you know, busting my butt. But I figure busting your butt for a year, however long, and then being able to reap the rewards from it definitely is totally worth it. So when that little voice in your head says, why are you doing this? This is so hard. Just go back to your normal life. Shut that voice up and remind yourself that this is so fulfilling. And, we get paid to work out, to read, to improve ourselves, to enhance our skills, to build relationships, to help people. That's seriously what it is. And we get so much freedom from this. So when those little voices sneak in saying, why are you doing this? This is so hard. That's another fear creeping in. And, try to block that out as quickly as possible. I think another fear is that we have to be perfect, or that we have to do things perfectly. And I think, one of the speeches I really like is Art Williams' Just Do It speech, because something about that speech resonates with me in that when we just do it and do it and do it, it reminds me that I don't always have to be doing everything perfectly. I just need to be doing something each day to move in the direction of where we want to go. And I think as long as we're doing that, it is impossible not to get to our goal. Maybe not in the time we expect to, but we will get there. It's impossible. I truly believe it's impossible to fail in this business unless you actually quit. As long as you're doing something, little by little, you will get there. So, that fear of having to be perfect, don't feel that way. You don't have to be perfect. The important thing is remember why you're doing it. I think when you focus on helping people and enjoying the ride and focus on why you wanted to do this in the first place, that's where the good stuff is. And I think when you kind of focus on that, guess what? The money and the good business come along with it. So I think just be yourself, be genuine, help people. The business will come along with it. Another big common fear, and I'm sure this is something we all encounter, is that other people or other successful coaches had advantages that I didn't, or that you didn't. And, I remember hearing Scotty talk about how when he started, how he was afraid that, with Lindsay Matway being his upline, that she was this pretty girl and that he wouldn't be able to sell things as well as she was. But obviously that's not true, because we all see where Scotty is now. I remember Shiva's call a few weeks ago. Shiva, I told you this. My thoughts on Shiva prior to hearing your call was that she owned a country somewhere and was forcing people to buy challenge packs. And so when she talked about how she had built up this entire business using Instagram with people she didn't know, that was incredible to me. Melissa Morris last week talked about having no warm market when she started. These stories are incredible to hear how people that maybe I once, saw their success and assumed that they had advantages over me. It's just not true. And so I think it helps to, dispel those fears by listening to stories of successful people that started at what you view to be a similar starting point that you're at. I think the more similar they were when they started to where you're at now, the more you can kind of tune in to see that what's possible for you. So I think oftentimes when we naturally assume they started that way, that they were good from the get-go, that they always knew what to say to customers. But, we have to remember that they all went through the same struggles that we were going through. And if anything, we have an advantage over them because they have the knowledge to share with us that can help us get to where they are without as much trial and error. So I guess what you can see that I'm doing here is really trying, and this has been my philosophy since Scotty's Go Group, is that, if I can take fear out of it and remember that it's just the part of the process, that really keeps me positive. So I think, other ways to take fear out of it, like I said, improve your skill, improve on things that intimidate you. But when you take the fear out of it, that's what makes those disappointments resonate as something, that our brain associates with bad or with being disappointing. And I think you're your own worst enemy in this business, and it's easy to let disappointments get into your head and that natural fear sneaks in. And if you let things get to you, it becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. You may slow down on your daily behaviors, but it also may be that just not as much excitement is coming through in your voice and in your messages. So, I think it's natural that fear sneaks in, but I'm going to give you some steps in a little bit to help kind of get back to a much more positive mindset. And, I think when you keep consistent that way and you try to stay positive, good things will come. So like I said originally, my mantra, I guess you could say, that I say to myself is, when disappointments strike, get excited because good things are on the way. And an example I'll give is back at the end of January, I think it was maybe January 29th, it was right at Success Club 10, and I had an unexpected challenge pack return. So obviously I lost 2 points for that. And, it bummed me out, of course, but, I tried to tell myself, like, okay, that must mean something good is coming. And sure enough, I think the next day I got an unexpected Shakeology order, and one of my good friends decided she was ready to be a coach. So it was back up to Success Club 10 or maybe even 11, I can't remember. And so, just like that. And obviously that's an extreme example, but the statement that when something disappointing happens, the good things are on the way, that has never proven me wrong. I mean, it has worked every single time. And, I think if you don't believe what I'm saying, try it yourself. What's the worst that can happen? I think the worst that can happen is that you get your hopes up and get disappointed again. But to me, that still seems a lot better than staying bummed out the whole way through. And, at the very least, you'll be happier than if you hadn't tried it. I think it's common, and we all know this, that we kind of put up this protective shell as a barrier, and you're keeping your expectations low so you don't get disappointed. But that's a trick. It's not a protection at all. It's a hindrance, and it's keeping you from achieving what you're capable of. So if you're constantly keeping your expectations low so you don't get disappointed, your behavior is probably going to reflect that as well, even if it's subtle or subconscious. And guess what? I think you're not going to get as good of results, and I think you're more likely to get disappointed. And then, oftentimes that reinforces our original inclination that we shouldn't expect much. So I think if you use the techniques, kind of the steps I'm about to tell you about, I think that makes a big difference. So like I said, over the last 6 months, there have been a lot of disappointments in the business for me, but I've been happy. I know it has helped my business, and it has helped me hit Success Club. And I think, if you let yourself get down about disappointments, you can still make progress, but I guarantee you're going to do it a lot faster if you stay happy and you stay positive. I think people see that. I think people can feel that, and they want it. They want to be a part of it. And I think they're naturally drawn to you that way. So even if you think you're hiding your disappointments well, I think people sense that too. So I'm going to go through some steps to kind of help each time you encounter a disappointment get you back to a much more positive and happy mindset. So the first one is what I've already spent a lot of time talking about, which is just reminding yourself that it's only temporary, no storm lasts forever, and ideally trying to get excited that it's a good sign that things are coming. I think, here we go. There we go. I think the next step, if the fears are still sneaking in, I think the next step is to go back to your why. I think for me, when I get a little stressed out about the business, I take a step back from the business. And I'm not necessarily saying take a step back in my actions. I still try to keep consistent doing my daily behaviors. But in my mind, I try to take a step back from focusing on Success Club and instead focusing on why I wanted to do this in the first place. And for me, that was to help people. I love feeling like I'm helping people in some small way. I love, building relationships with people or reconnecting with old friends. And I love the challenge groups. So I love connecting people in those ways. And when I log on, I see my challenge groups that, people are encouraging each other. That makes me so happy. So that is one go-to way to make me feel better. But I think if you can cling to any little thing, even if it's just the thought that maybe you're inspiring someone out there that you don't even realize, somebody that's watching your post, cling to that to keep yourself happy in the times when business is slow. Excitement sells. So if you don't have something to be excited about, find something to be excited about. So whether that's clinging on to some of the little things I just mentioned, or maybe just focus on being a product of the product so you can get excited about your own progress. I think that genuine excitement really shows through, and that excitement sells. So the next step, if you're still feeling down about any disappointments, I think you need a concrete, I dubbed it a feel-good file for the sake of this call. And, this for me could be, my vision book, inspiring quotes, messages from people that you have helped, your why list, messages from people who believe in you. There is a whole world out there, you guys know this, online of, different blogs and motivational speeches. All you have to do is Google it, and you'll open a whole Pandora's box of all kinds of things to instantly, pick you up. And another thing I think is important is having a support system. Obviously, we have a fantastic support system with our team and inside Beachbody, but I think it's also important to have a support system outside of Beachbody. So your friends, your family, but I think it's important that this should only be people that lift you up. So like Shalene Johnson says, if they're not lifting you up, make new friends. And so I'm not saying get rid of your old, your current friends, but if your friends aren't lifting you up, seek out new friends that will. Seek out people that are motivated, people that are positive, and surround yourself with them. And, if you still can't do this, maybe your support system is just God or your faith or whatever it may be to you. I do think it's important to have a support system outside of Beachbody as well. So I'm going to give you a little preview of the craziness that goes on inside my brain. This is my vision book that I made, and just some pictures of it. On the front cover, I have all my favorite motivational quotes, the ones that really resonated with me. I have everything in there from my fitness goals to my Beachbody business goals. I did Shalene's push program, so I have my push top priority statement in there. Pictures that relax me, pictures of what I want my future office to look like. I'm not kidding. There's seriously, I think, 30 pages in it. It's definitely extreme. And then, while I was at Kinko's, I had to make a separate, printout copy, and these are hung on my wall. So the top picture is my desk where I put my makeup on and get ready each morning. So it's something I look at every single morning. And the lower picture is I have this giant wooden sliding closet door. They're all plastered up there. Same thing. I look at it every single day. And, it definitely, I know this is a little bit nuts, for sure, a little bit extreme, but I don't care. It fires me up so much. It is an instant feel good for me. It's like a drug. So, it took me a while to make this all. My roommate already knows I'm crazy. She knows I'm nuts, so no worries there. Typical, slightly obsessive compulsive behavior for me, I'm sure. But so, anyways, this just a little glimpse into the craziness. But like I said, you can kind of see that it took me a little bit of time to make this, but well worth the time investment. So, anyways, the process I really want you to go through each time you hit a disappointment, I kind of set it up like a yes-no diagram. So each time you hit a disappointment, I want you to kind of go through some of the steps I outlined. First think in your head about some of the philosophies of it being cyclical, of it being part of the process. Remember, it's not you. You're not, don't necessarily associate it with some sort of lack in skill or that you're not cut out for. Read personal development. Reach out to coaches that know the business. Ask for help. Use them for motivation. Whatever you have to do to get you into a better mindset. If there's something you feel you're lacking in, go find the resources to teach you how to do it better. And just, continue to reevaluate. Thanks, Mike and Jen. Continue to reevaluate where you're at in your mindset and keep going through those steps until you can be more positive again, And remember, you don't have to be doing everything perfectly. Just do something each day to move things forward. Eventually, things will start falling into place, and all those seeds that you planted will start coming back, And even after you kind of reinvigorate yourself and get to a more positive mindset, there's a very good chance you get disappointed again. But that's okay. It's all part of the process. Remind yourself that you're doing just fine. We all go through this, and I think the more positive and happy you can stay throughout this, the better off you'll be. And to be honest, who doesn't want to be happy in general? So some other reasons for staying positive, I think one, you're not letting yourself get into a rut, and you're not letting your behaviors reflect that. So you're avoiding, creating that self-fulfilling prophecy and ensuring that you stay consistent. Number two, I think being positive will attract people to you for sure. It's contagious. Number three, again, it's contagious. It will make everyone around you happy, which makes your life more pleasant in general. Number four, it will ensure that you're enjoying the ride and the entire process. It'll make things fun, and it'll make your life a whole lot happier. If I told you over the next year of coaching, we're going to go through a lot of ups and downs, but you're going to be happy through the whole process, would you do that? Of course. I think everybody would say, yes, I want that. And the beauty of it is that you can choose that. And I know sometimes it can be hard, the fear gets into your head, it messes with your mind, but I just gave you some concrete steps to go through each time to try to get back to a better mindset, And for me, over the last 6 months, of course, there have been a lot of disappointments along the way, but I've been happy, and I know that's helped my business. And I think, if you let yourself get down about your disappointments, you can still make progress, but I can guarantee that you're going to do it a lot faster if you stay happy and you stay positive. I think, like I said before, people sense that, and they want it, and they want to be a part of it. And, I think people sense disappointments too. So when you hit a disappointment, follow the steps, get back to a better mindset, make the choice, choose to follow the steps, choose to remember that a disappointment is a sign that good things are coming, and choose to remember that even the top coaches let self-doubt sneak in sometimes, but they work past it anyway, and I've given you some steps that at least have helped me get through these each and every time. I saw a quote. It could have been from one of you, actually. I forget which coach I borrowed this from, but I saw this the other day, and it's basically talking about how if you can find a reason to, say each day that it was a beautiful day, that you'll look back and you'll be able to say it was a beautiful life. And I think the same applies to coaching. I think if you can dig some aspect of joy or happiness out of each day, I think you'll be able to look back and say, this entire process was incredible, and the disappointments mean nothing in comparison to that. Nothing. I think the more you do this, the more that positive mindset is just going to become a natural state of mind for you. And I think that's so important, and that contributes to success, not just in coaching, but in all areas of your life. So, if you didn't watch the Tony Robbins video that was posted in the Team Dynasty group, Moving from Change to Progress, there was a point in there that Cherish pointed out to me where he talks about instead of focusing on goals that we have to push, to focus on something that is so great that it's going to pull us forward. So we all know that the visualization is great for that. So I think it's important to visualize why it's so important to stay positive and how it can help you. So the call to action is to define at least 2 specific reasons to stay positive when conflict or disappointment arise, and I want you to describe them with as much detail as you can. And I also want to hear, obviously I know I'm not the world expert on staying positive, so I'd love to hear other ways that you guys stay positive. I think, we all know there's a lot of ups and downs in this business, so I think the bigger our tool chest for being able to stay positive and happy during those disappointments, the better. And Scotty also wanted me to mention, and I totally agree, the importance of getting to Summit and Super Saturdays. And I've never been to Summit before. Like I said, I just joined last August, so I am so excited to go this year. I mean, talk about a way to let yourself completely start your fire and, to surround yourself with positive people. I think pretty much everything I mentioned so far in this talk is going to be happening at Summit. And I think the same happens at Super Saturdays, to surround yourself that way. And then this month, as far as Success Club, don't forget that the 180 Insanity Challenge packs will help you. And, also, even with that price raise in the Shakeology, the 2 flavors, now up to $130. I mean, it takes them even closer to the price of a challenge pack. So it's very easy to slip in there. Hey, while you're at it, for $10 more, you could get, this challenge pack. So don't forget those little techniques in there. So I hope this time has been beneficial to you guys, and keep staying positive, keep staying happy. Remember how awesome this job is and how wonderful the people on our team are. So if you have any questions, if anybody has any questions, post them below, or feel free to message me after. So thank you for your time tonight, guys. I appreciate you getting on, and I hope everybody has a wonderful week.
Awesome. Thank you, Katelyn. That was a perfect call. That was exactly even what I needed to hear today. So thank you so much for your passion and your positivity and sharing it, and willing to take time to share with us everything today. I'll remind you guys on top of that, next week we have a brand new coach, Kendra Fletcher, will be sharing with us. She asked me if she could do a call on our team. She's been a coach for just over a month and hit successful 19 in March. So she wanted to share what she did from a new coach perspective. So share with your teams so that they know, especially all new coaches, next week, next Wednesday at this time. And Brigitte and I will be gone to the Shalene Johnson event in Long Beach, California, but Cherish, Melissa, and Kendra Fletcher will be running the call. All right, thanks, guys. I'll put the recording up shortly, and looking forward to see your call to action.